It's fear. If the economy is shrinking and you may not be gainfully employed and new people are coming into your neighborhood and taking government money for social services and stuff that you feel you should be entitled to, that will bother somebody. And I don't know that that's based solely in racism as much as it's based in the fight for survival for you and your families.
They live in the shadows. Hundreds of thousands of people across Canada. Afraid to emerge. They are undocumented. Not supposed to be here. Living and working in secret.
Es fuerte tener que lidiar todos los días.
Amelia is one of a single mom from Mexico cleaning an Airbnb in a big Canadian city. We aren't using her real name or showing her face because she's undocumented. When we think of a workforce of ghosts doing manual labor, the jobs many don't want to do, we usually think of the United States and its racially charged debate about what to do with 11 million people in that country illegally. But Canada has an extensive underground economy too, and in the face of changing immigration attitudes and policy, workers are coming out of the shadows, asking that their voices be heard.
La causa principal fue, o la decisión fue porque nuestra vida sí estaba en peligro.
Amelia left Mexico 5 years ago on a tourist visa, fleeing cartels, she says. She's too scared to return. She has 2 kids, a 15-year-old born in Mexico and a 2-year-old born here with autism. They live in a 1-room basement apartment. She works 7 days a week.
Mi trabajo es haciendo limpieza en postconstrucción, limpieza de casas, limpiezas de Airbnbs. Conforme se vaya prestando el trabajo es como yo voy adquiriendo.
If you're undocumented, how do they pay you?
Cash.
No one really knows how many undocumented people are in Canada. The government estimates there are up to 500,000. Migrant groups say it could be higher.
This isn't about people pouring over the border. Many people become undocumented because they stay longer than they're legally allowed to. Say someone doesn't return to their home country after an asylum claim is denied, or stays after their student, visitor, or temporary worker status expires. Everyone has a different story about how they ended up living in the shadows. The man leading this iconic Canadian cheer lived for years with a secret.
Basketball fans, welcome into Canada's home for Talking Hoops. This is The Hangout. I am Akil Augustine.
Basketball fans know Akil Augustine as a courtside star, host for NBA Canada. But before all of that, Augustine was a kid from Trinidad and Tobago, without papers, undocumented. He was brought to Canada when he was 4 to live with an aunt. He didn't find out he was undocumented until his friends started getting jobs.
And as weeks go on, you keep asking questions, then you realize, oh, no one knows what the hell's going on. And so I finally figured out, yeah, I'm undocumented. And
What was that realization like?
well, it's bad news, so it's scary.
Yeah.
Your stomach drops a couple floors. I remember one time I got the flu and my family was away. And it was the worst flu I ever had, and I knew I couldn't go to the doctor. And so I was alone in the house, and I remember it took me a whole day to get back up the stairs. So I'd take 1 flight of stairs, and I'd be out for an hour. I was just so out of breath, I couldn't breathe. I think that was probably one of the scarier moments.
It took a decade to navigate a path to citizenship, thanks to community connections, lawyers, teachers, mentors. They made an application for status under humanitarian and compassionate grounds.
Well, this is probably the most important thing I own, which is my certificate of Canadian citizenship, which I got back in 2015. You ever play tag? Home safe?
Yeah.
It's kind of like home safe.
Now he works to help other undocumented people get status.
I can provide anecdotal evidence that if you bring a little kid from Trinidad who doesn't know much and raise him in Canada under the great education system and support systems that we have, he can flourish and add things to our society. That's what I know.
Increasingly, the government is sending them home. In the last fiscal year, Canada Border Services says more than 15,000 people were deported for breaking immigration rules.
We've seen significant numbers of deportation, I think historic highs of the numbers of removals from this country this year. We're very serious about that.
That's a shift in priority. When he got the job 3 years ago, Immigration Minister Mark Miller was told to explore ways of regularizing status for undocumented workers. 3 years later, it's not on the table.
There's no consensus at this time as to what to do.
We are the people you're trying to kick out of the country. We are human beings, and we are not taps to be turned on and off.
A group of undocumented workers is fighting for status. Manaya Jess joined this protest in Ottawa, even though by being here, by showing her face, she risks being sent back to Jamaica.
I'm here fighting for status for everyone, every migrant in this country. I came here as a migrant farm worker, and I was physical and verbally mistreated.
Jess came to Canada twice as a temporary farm worker picking apples. The third time she came to Canada, she worked on a strawberry farm.
For a Canadian that doesn't know about picking strawberry, it's a really hard work.
Shortly after arriving at the farm, she got hurt. She says her employer wouldn't help her get medical attention.
So they were robbing me from my rights, what I deserve.
So she left the job, but not the country, and began to live in the shadows. Every morning, she walks through this forest near her home, imagining what it would be like if her children could join her.
My youngest son don't know me, so it's not much relationship there because I left him when he was so small. So it's hard.
Canadian attitudes towards immigration, both legal and illegal, are changing.
We didn't get the balance quite right.
In October, the government announced plans to cut back on legal immigration.
It's fear. If the economy is shrinking and you may not be gainfully employed and new people are coming into your neighborhood and taking government money for social services and stuff that you feel you should be entitled to, that will bother somebody. And I don't know that that's based solely in racism as much as it's based in the fight for survival for you and your family.
Algo nos trajo aquí. La necesidad, a lo mejor la persecución, otras veces el racismo. Todo el mundo viene por una circunstancia, a cambiar su vida y a nombrar aquí Canadá tu hogar.